we're gonna work on his main issue, you know, so I've been told, about tying. The thing about tying is, you know, if you've got a horse that pulls back, you know, they have tools available. I've got on my, on all my areas where I tie horses up, I got a tie block ring, and we use them all the time. Even on, you know, the horses that, you know, none of our horses pull back anyway, but we always use them, depending on the severity of, you know, how the horse pulls back, why he pulls back. But if you've got a horse that you know has the potential to pull back, it would be my advice to carry one of those around wherever you go. And if you don't have one, don't tie them. And there's different ways to get around that, you know. I mean, you know, if you're in an event and you're worried about your horse, you know, getting loose because you don't want to tie him, you know, where you just put the rope around and then wrap it around itself, put them in the trailer. Just put them in the trailer and go have your lunch, and you don't have to worry about them getting away. So I've had horses like that, and I had one really nice head horse I bought. He was probably 17 or 18 years old when I bought him, and that was one of his issues, and that's why, you know, nobody wanted him, but he was a really good rope horse. So I tried all this, you know, with him, but, you know, his reason for pulling back was probably different than most horses. He did it, and you could just tell by watching him that he just liked to do it. And then one time I bought, you know, I did the gimmick thing, and I bought this piece of rubber. It was about that long, about 2 inches thick, solid rubber, and it had chains infused on each end. And I was like, oh man, I'm gonna get him now. So I hooked him up to that, and just kind of quit paying attention to him, and we were working around the barn, and then he laid back, you know, and both Michelle and I were, you know, she was on one side, I was on the other, we're just watching him. And you could, I mean, he just lays back, you know, where he's got his butt almost on the ground, and he just pulling for everything. And you could watch that rubber; it was just stretching. And I thought, I finally got you, you know. And his eyes were closed, and it was almost like, you know, he was just enjoying it. And then snap, that thing snapped right in half. The rubber just snapped right. I couldn't believe it. And so yeah, that horse, he definitely beat me. But this horse, I think, is a little bit different. I think he's doing it out of fear. You know, he's feeling, you know, he's got anxiety, and it might have to do with pulling up to an event, you know, and I'm going to test that out too. So, but right now I'm just going to tie him up to the tie blocker and do some work around him. There we go. And then, you know, when I'm working with a horse that might pull back, I try to keep, you know, I keep the lead pretty short up here because I just don't want him to get a running start at it. So he's a little nervous because he knows he's restrained now. So I'm just gonna slowly introduce this to him. Good boy. He's licking his lips though, so I'm really not that worried about him. He's anticipating everything, so. You can see how he's bracing himself right now, so let's see if I can get him to relax a little bit. Good boy. Like I said, this is day one, so he's not going to get a lot of pressure on him for the first few days. Just very mild. Okay, so we know he's not really worried about the rope too much, so, but we'll just add another little game. You know, because really, you know, if you go to a team roping, look at 100 horses out there, all tied to the fence. Some are tied with halters, some are tied with reins. And they just stand there, completely strangers to each other, and they just stand there. And really, I guess the goal is to get them to where they don't even think about pulling back anymore. If something happens, you know, like if something happens around him, you know, he could deal with it right there with that short lead, you know, and not have to go running backwards. And that, you know, if you can get them to do that, you know, where they're excited, upset. And I'll give you an example. I was at a rope in Ellensburg, and I was riding Turtle. I was getting ready to go, and I had my other heel horse tied up to the fence. You know, he was in a halter, and he was tied up hard and fast to a pretty solid pole. And there was a set of panels, you know, out in the middle of the arena, you know, where people were, you know, they would stage their horses. And most people would tie their horses, you know, so if the horse pulled back, the, you know, the reins or the halter or whatever would come off. Well, one guy didn't do that. He tied hard and fast. So his, you know, something happened. His horse pulled back, pulled the panel off the other panels, and started racing around the arena. And, you know, I mean, fast with the, you know, with that panel chasing him. And he was going all the way, and it was a big arena, he was going all the way around the arena. And you know, everybody's yelling at me, you know, I was tied off and everything, getting ready to rope, and they're like, rope him, rope. And I was like, no way am I gonna rope that thing with that gate flying behind him. And so I just watched him go around, and he went past me, and he was headed right for my Roni tied to the fence, and I was just like, oh no, this is not gonna be good. And my Roni was standing there, you know, he could see it coming. He was watching it, and he was just standing there dancing. And as soon as that horse went by him, he jumped straight up in the air, and the gate went right underneath him, and the horse went around, got into a corner, you know, and stopped, and they were able to, you know, get him untangled from that gate. Like I said, I'll put more pressure on him as we go along, but I don't really know this horse, and I just want to see where his buttons are. You know, I keep yelling at that dog, and he's an old, blind, deaf dog, and I'm just, I'm more worried about him than I am the horses. He's not smart enough to stay away from him. If anything ever happened to that dog, I would be in big doo-doo. Oh, he's not afraid of the water. Now they said that he had problems with his feet, so we'll check that right now. Good boy. We'll definitely test that out when we shoe him. Good boy. Good boy. Yeah, he's due for new shoes now. That's good. Attaboy. Attaboy. Good boy. Good boy.